Okay, so imagine this. You wake up tomorrow and the government is just gone, like completely gone. No military, no police, no one maintaining the roads or the power grid or the water supply. Money stops working, your phone stops working, the internet's down, and everyone's just left to figure it out themselves. Sounds like a nightmare, right? Like some post-apocalyptic movie? Well, this actually happened. I'm talking about Britain in the year 410 AD when Rome just abandons the place. And what happens next is absolutely insane. Because Britain goes from being this wealthy, sophisticated Roman province to complete chaos in just a few decades. Like, we're talking cities abandoned. Money becomes useless. People literally forget how to read and write. It's like watching civilization collapse in real time. And the craziest part? This isn't some gradual decline. This is fast. This is brutal. And it changes Britain forever. But to understand how bad it gets, we need to start way before 410, because Rome's been in Britain for almost 400 years at this point. So, let me set the scene. It's around 43 AD when Rome first invades Britain. And they're not just passing through, they conquer most of the island and they completely transform it. Like before Rome shows up, Britain is basically a bunch of tribal societies living in roundhouses, farming, fighting each other, pretty standard Iron Age stuff. But Rome brings cities. They build Londinium, which is London. They build Bath with its fancy Roman baths. They build roads, and I mean good roads. Roads that are so well built that some of them are still used today, almost 2,000 years later. They build Hadrian's Wall in the north to keep out the Picts and the Scots. They bring writing, they bring currency, they bring wine, they bring central heating, they bring pottery, glassware, all this stuff. And the Britons? A lot of them love it. I mean, not everyone, obviously. There are rebellions, like Boudica's revolt, where she burns down London and kills thousands of Romans. But eventually, most people settle into Roman life. The rich Britons start building Roman-style villas with mosaic floors and underfloor heating. They start wearing togas, speaking Latin, worshiping Roman gods. Their kids go to Roman schools. They use Roman money to buy Roman goods. Britain becomes a proper Roman province, paying taxes to Rome, defended by Roman legions, governed by Roman law. And for almost 400 years, this is just normal. Like, if you're living in Roman Britain in the year 300 AD, Rome has been there for so long that nobody even remembers what life was like before. Your great-great-great-great-grandfather was Roman. This is your civilization. This is your identity. But then things start going wrong. And it happens slowly at first. See, the Roman Empire is massive, right? It stretches from Britain all the way to the Middle East, from North Africa all the way up to Germany. And by the late 300s AD, it's struggling. There are barbarian invasions happening all over the place. Germanic tribes are pushing into Gaul, which is France. The Goths are causing problems in the Balkans. The Persians are attacking in the east. And Rome is like, we can't defend everything at once. So they start making choices. And Britain is literally the edge of the empire. It's an island way up in the northwest corner. It's expensive to defend. It requires legions, supplies, ships, constant attention. And when Rome starts having to choose where to send their troops, Britain starts looking less and less essential. Now, the people living in Britain start to notice things changing. First, some of the legions get pulled out and sent to Gaul to fight barbarians there. Then, more troops leave. Then more. And every time troops leave, it makes Britain more vulnerable. Because Britain has enemies too. You've got the Picts coming down from Scotland. You've got the Scots, who actually come from Ireland at this time, confusingly, raiding the west coast. You've got Saxons from Germany starting to raid the east coast. And all these groups have been held back by Roman military might. But now, the military is leaving. And then in 406 AD, something catastrophic happens. A massive group of Germanic tribes, we're talking Vandals, Alans, Suebi, they cross the frozen Rhine River and invade Gaul. And Rome can't stop them. Gaul, which is right next to Britain, descends into chaos. Cities are sacked, roads become unsafe, trade collapses. And Britain is watching this happen, knowing they could be next. So, in 407 AD, the remaining Roman troops in Britain are freaking out. They're like, Rome isn't protecting us. Rome isn't sending help. We need to do something. So they actually rebel. They declare their own emperor, a guy named Constantine III. Not the famous Constantine, just some random soldier also named Constantine. And he takes the remaining legions and crosses over to Gaul to try to fight the barbarians and maybe claim the throne of Rome for himself. And Britain is like, wait, what? You're leaving? And Constantine is like, yeah, I'll be back. Don't worry. He did not come back. So now Britain has almost no legions left. And the raids are getting worse. Saxons are hitting the coast, Picts are coming over Hadrian's Wall, and the Britons are sending desperate letters to Rome begging for help, like, please send troops, please send money, please send something. And in 410 AD, they get a response. The Emperor Honorius, who's dealing with Goths literally sacking the city of Rome itself at this moment, sends back a letter. And this letter is famous. It basically says, look after your own defenses. That's it. That's the message. You're on your own. Good luck. And just like that, Rome is gone. After almost 400 years, Rome just leaves. They don't send a goodbye ceremony. They don't gradually transition power. They just stop being there. The legions aren't coming back. The governors aren't coming back. The supplies aren't coming back. The system that has run Britain for 4 centuries just stops. Now, you might think, okay, well, the Britons are still there. They can just keep things running, right? Wrong, because here's what people don't realize about Rome and Britain. It's not just that Rome ruled Britain. Rome was Britain. The entire economy, the entire government, the entire infrastructure, everything is built on the assumption that Rome is there. Let me give you an example. Money. Roman Britain uses Roman coins, right? But those coins are minted in Rome, or in other Roman provinces, and shipped to Britain. When Rome leaves, new coins stop arriving. And the coins that exist, they start running out. People hoard them, lose them, and there's no replacement. Within a generation, people in Britain basically stop using money. They go back to bartering. Can you imagine that? Going from a sophisticated money economy back to trading chickens for grain? Or take pottery. Roman Britain has these massive pottery industries making standardized red pottery that everyone uses. But these industries need large-scale organization, trade networks, fuel, specialist workers. When the Roman system collapses, these industries collapse too. Within a few decades, Britain goes from mass-produced pottery to crude, handmade stuff that looks like it's from the Stone Age. Or cities. Roman Britain has proper cities with stone buildings, running water, sewage systems, markets, temples, bathhouses. But cities need constant maintenance. They need organized government to keep the aqueducts working, to repair roads, to maintain public buildings. When Rome leaves, nobody's in charge of this stuff anymore. And cities are expensive. You need to import food to feed all those people. You need trade networks to bring in goods. When those networks break down, cities become impossible to maintain. And here's the really crazy part. People abandon the cities, like, completely. Londinium, which is London, has maybe 20,000–30,000 people at its peak. By 450 AD, it's basically empty. People leave the stone buildings and go back to living in wooden roundhouses in the countryside. And these Roman cities, some of them stay abandoned for centuries. Future generations of Britons will look at these ruins and think giants built them because they can't imagine humans building something so big. So Britain in the mid-400s is in freefall, and the Britons are trying to figure out what to do. They still have some organization left. Rich landowners, local leaders, former Roman officials. They're trying to hold things together. They're trying to maintain some kind of defense against the raids. And this is where they make a decision that will change everything. They're like, okay, we can't defend ourselves against the Picts and Scots. But you know who are good warriors? The Saxons. Those Germanic peoples who've been raiding us? What if we hire them? What if we invite some of them to settle in Britain as mercenaries to fight off our other enemies? And I know what you're thinking. This sounds like a terrible idea. And you're right, it's a catastrophically bad idea. But when you're desperate, bad ideas start looking pretty good. So they do it. They invite groups of Saxons, Angles, and Jutes, all Germanic peoples from what's now Germany and Denmark, to settle in eastern Britain as hired warriors. And at first, it maybe works okay. These warriors fight off some raids, they get paid in land and food, everyone's happy. But then more come, and more. And at some point, these aren't just mercenaries anymore. They're settlers. They're bringing their families, they're taking over land. And the Britons are like, wait, this wasn't the deal. And the Germanic peoples are like, yeah, well, we're here now, so. And then it turns into war. The Britons try to fight, there are battles, there are massacres. There's a British leader named Ambrosius Aurelianus who wins some victories. There might be another leader around this time who later becomes the legend of King Arthur. Though we don't actually know if Arthur was real or just a myth based on several different people. But overall, the Britons are losing. These Germanic invaders, who will eventually be called the Anglo-Saxons, they keep coming. They keep pushing west. They're taking over eastern and southern Britain. And they're not just conquering, they're replacing. They're bringing their own language, Old English, which will eventually become modern English. They're bringing their own culture, their own gods, their own way of life. And here's where it gets really dark. Because Roman Britain doesn't just decline, it gets erased, like almost completely. The Romano-British people who lived in cities, who spoke Latin, who used Roman law, who were Christian, they get pushed west into Wales and Cornwall, or they get absorbed into Anglo-Saxon culture, or they flee to Brittany in France, which is literally named after the British refugees who settle there. And the Anglo-Saxons? They're pagans. They worship Woden and Thor. They're not interested in Roman civilization. They look at these abandoned Roman cities and they avoid them because they think they're haunted or cursed. They call them the work of giants. They build their own wooden halls instead. Literacy almost disappears. In Roman Britain, lots of people can read and write Latin. But the Anglo-Saxons don't read or write. They have an oral culture. So the ability to read and write just vanishes. For a couple hundred years, almost nobody in Britain can read. All that knowledge, all those Roman texts, all that learning, gone. Christianity almost disappears too. Britain had been Christian since the late Roman period. But the Anglo-Saxons are pagan, so Christianity survives only in Wales, Cornwall, and Ireland. It won't come back to England until missionaries arrive in 597 AD. Even technology regresses. People forget how to make Roman pottery. They forget how to make Roman cement. They forget how to build in stone. They forget how to mint coins. Britain goes from one of the most advanced places in Europe to one of the most backward. Historians call this period the Dark Ages, and in Britain, it really is dark. We have almost no written records from 410 to about 600 AD. It's like Britain just drops off the map of history. We don't know what happened in most places. We don't know who ruled where. We have archaeology and a few mentions in foreign texts, but mostly it's just a mystery. So what we have is this incredible transformation. In 400 AD, Britain is Roman. People speak Latin, they live in cities, they use money, they're Christian, they're part of a vast international civilization. By 500 AD, Britain is Anglo-Saxon. People speak early English. They live in wooden halls in the countryside. They barter instead of using money. They're pagan. They're divided into dozens of small kingdoms constantly fighting each other. Roman civilization is just a memory. And in many places, not even that. It's one of the most dramatic collapses in history. And it happens in just a few generations. Your great-grandfather is a sophisticated Roman citizen, living in a city, reading books, going to the bathhouse. You're an illiterate Anglo-Saxon farmer who's never seen a book and thinks the ruins down the road were built by giants. And the thing is, this wasn't inevitable. Other parts of the Roman Empire survived the collapse better. In Gaul, Roman civilization blends with Germanic culture and eventually becomes medieval France. In Spain, in Italy, in North Africa, Roman culture adapts and continues in various forms. But in Britain, it just ends. And the reason is partly geography. Britain is an island isolated when the trade networks collapse. It's partly bad luck, the timing of the invasions, the decisions made by desperate leaders. And it's partly that the Anglo-Saxon takeover was so complete. They didn't just conquer Roman Britain. They replaced it. But here's the interesting part. This disaster, it ended up creating England. The Anglo-Saxons who took over eventually formed the kingdoms that became England. The language they spoke became English. the culture they built became the foundation of English identity. So in a weird way, the catastrophic collapse of Roman Britain was necessary for England to exist. And Roman Britain, it was forgotten for centuries. When medieval people found Roman ruins, they didn't know their own ancestors built them. They thought they were built by giants or wizards. It wasn't until much later that people started digging up the past and piecing together what had been lost. Today, you can still see the evidence of both. Roman roads still forming the routes of modern highways. Roman walls still standing in cities like York and Chester. Anglo-Saxon place names all over the map. England is literally built on the ruins of Roman Britain. Layers of history stacked on top of each other. And the lesson? Civilization is more fragile than you think. You can have roads and cities and literacy and law, and it can all fall apart faster than you'd believe. Rome was in Britain for 400 years. It took less than 50 years for almost all of it to vanish. So yeah, that's what happened when Rome left Britain. They left, everything collapsed, and Britain had to start over from scratch. And honestly, that's kind of terrifying.